first, Surveyor Dr. Wan Samsul Zamani from UITM, he's a senior lecturer with UITM. We have Joanne Mann, SVP Sales Asset Pacific of iOffice and Space IQ. And Lisa Copeland, Managing Director of Precision's Workspace Transition. Welcome, all of you. Thank you very much. We appreciate your time together for having with us tonight. Before we start, I have a few housekeeping items. Everyone is on mute actually. If you have any question for our speaker, please feel free to enter them into the chat box section below of your Zoom platform, and we will be addressing the question at the end of the session, or you can also ask by raising your hand at the participant section of your Zoom interface. We also recording this, and a recorded version of today's webinar will be available on demand after the live session. Without further ado, I would like to turn this over to our first speaker, Surveyor Dr. Wan Samsul Zamani. Thank you very much, Doctor, and over to you.
Okay. Right, thank you, Mr. Ahmad Sharinun, the moderator of this program. Is it you can hear me?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Okay, I share my slide. Okay, is it you can see this my slide?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Okay, good. Okay, first of all, this is quite welcoming to me. Unfortunately, I the first time been giving talk on this session on Microcorp and CIDB organization. Been organized this session. This is a good platform for the sharing session to all the participants and the attendants, okay, on this session. Okay, for my talk or my topic today, I'll talk about space management, even though the topic is on the trickiest part of the conversation, but I'm focusing on basically a part of my slide focusing on higher education institution because of I'm the lecturer in UITM on the Malaysia Public Higher Education, one of the Malaysia Public University in Malaysia, and even though my PhD focusing also in space audit assessment in higher education institution, and that's why one of my slide quite more focusing on higher education institution in space management. Okay. Okay. All right. This is my overview about my content. Okay. First is I will explain of my background, and next I will explain on definition, purpose of space management, issue in space management process, space audit assessment. This is one type of my my expert. Okay. And lastly, challenges in digital space management. Because to relate with our topic, isn't it? Okay. Okay, we goes on my background. Okay, first of all, I tell about myself. Okay, I'm Surveyor Dr. Wan Samsul Zamani di Hamdan. I'm right now being as a coordinator knowledge transfer unit, Office Research National Committee and Alumni Networking in UITM Perak branch, located in Perak. Okay, in Malaysia, in Malaysia Peninsula. All right. And also as a senior lecturer in Study Center of Building Surveying Environment Technology Department, Faculty of Architecture, Planning and Surveying, UITM Perak branch. Okay, and lastly, I'm also full member of building surveyors, professional building surveyors from Royal Institute of Surveying Malaysia, as an internal consultant for UITM branch, because I'm also doing consultant work if the client outside of the UITM request us to make some work. For example, I have been done like building condition assessment, building performance, space, even though I also make work on space audit assessment for higher education institution. Okay, one of my consultant job. All right. Okay, this is my contribution in space management. Since I've been start doing my study and my research and my consultant work, since 2010 until now, Okay, been developed and established and to establish on 4 documents related on space management. One of it is first is on space management best practice for Malaysia public higher education institution. This is documentation is regulated by the Ministry of Education of Malaysia. Okay, and this book been published since 2013 by the Ministry of Education right now as Ministry of Higher Education, and I am one of the author and researcher and also the expert to develop because at that time since 2010 the ministry have a problem to determine how they can determine is it the all the higher education institution like University Malaya, UKM, all the university in Malaysia, they quite request in terms of funding to develop new faculty, new building. However, they did not have a record what the status of their space, okay, and how we determine the mechanism to determine is it they have enough space or is it they have not enough space? Is it exactly they have enough space? This is the question that quite been haunted to the ministry, how they can determine is it they really need new building. That's why I remember the ministry engaged me and my team to set up a study, and I be given a grant research about 700,000 to make study in terms of space management for higher education institution at that time in 2000, and I be completed the task completed about 1 year, and after the completion the ministry quite happy about our result. Then that's why after 2012, 1 year after that, the minister been give responsible to us to develop this manual. It can be manual or best practice book for all the higher education, public higher education institutions in Malaysia to make some reference how they manage the space for them. This is the book, and quite sadly, this cannot be set up. It's only for government sectors to become as a reference to them. Okay, and next is this is what I've been talk about with Mr. Sharani. This called Menu Operasi JKR Pengurusan Ruang. It's called My Spata. Okay, I am one of the expert, because subject matter expert on these matters, because in My Spata, they call JKR is a public work department. They have been produced operation manual on space management, and this book or document still on progress. Even though my task has been completed, but the public work department in Malaysia have to study more a little bit about it, because it's about talk about all over building, government building in Malaysia. That's why I also been invited to develop this one. I've been begin in 2015 until now, been completed in 2017 or 18, and now been still discussed to further to launching after they have been justify and agree all the condition in the document. Okay, next in 2020, I also become expert on the advisor as become expert advisor on space management for my university UITM. I've been developed space management policy for University Technology Mara, because UITM what have been discussed with Mr. Sharin. They have been implement space management since 2000. That's mean almost 20 years. Okay. However, at that time there is no policy, that specific policy on space management. That's why until 2000, about 20 years, I'm still develop on these matters, and happily and successfully I have been completed the document last year on April. I don't know. This year, 2021, being completed and be published and be circulated to all the campuses around in Malaysia, because UiTM have each campuses around of Malaysia. Okay, and lastly, this is my PhD. Okay, my PhD document about, because I'm studying about space management, to develop space management audit assessment for framework for Malaysia Public University. Okay, this is the one document. This is why I've been studying about space, and successfully I've done a lot of document after that. Okay, this is my high achievement. All right, and next is okay. Ongoing that, okay, I'm also doing consultation work on space management. I'm also doing space audit because my expert is space audit assessment. That's why this first document is report on space audit usage in Malaysia Public Universities 2021. This is the document I've been said before. Okay, the ministry have given us the research grant about 700,000 to make study on these matters on space management, and they have and we have to come up with the manual and the guideline how to manage the space of the higher education institution in Malaysia. And suddenly, after about 6 years after that, UITM 5 years after that, UITM main campus UITM Shah Alam instruct us to audit space audit for the main campuses in Shah Alam, Selangor, to determine what is the capacity of building capacity and building occupancy of the space in the UITM Shah Alam. And after that, 1 year after that, I've been asked to make a job on task on space audit in my campus in Perak. Okay, my rector boss, they instruct me, after you done on the main campus, you proceed to our branch campuses in Perak. This is my task since 2012 until 2018. Okay. And now we go on the serious matters. What is space management is all about? Because many people, especially in Malaysia, they're quite confused. Once we talk about space, is it we talk about facilities or maintenance or what? Because some of the people, especially industry or building management, they think space management is talk about design space. Okay, yes. Space is about how to it's not about the design space, it's talk about how to manage space. That's why the philosophy of space management is this is the keyword, the art of science of maximizing value existing space and minimizing the new space. That means we maximize the existing space for what? For reducing the requirement of new space, because the new space is new construction. New construction means it's high cost for the government to spend. That's mean how to reduce the government spending by maximizing existing space. However you want to do it, it might be you can be renovate, upgrading, whatever, to make sure that the building can be used, can be utilized, optimization. And this is here by in 1966. And this is the Hamdan 264. This is my PhD. Okay, this is my understanding what is space management is all about. A process skill of art and science. Okay, to maximize the value of existing space, imagination of the new through project space requirement, identify deficiency, allocation, space user, equitable way, monitoring use, assisting user with users problem, resolve space problem, improve facility management strategy to support the core business of the organization. This is the meaning of space management. This is, they have to take us all consideration about space. Okay, then we can achieve what is space management all about. Okay, this is the main objective of space management in terms of functionality, in terms of consistency, in terms of efficiency, flexibility, and cost. This is why we need to manage space. Okay, to make sure the function of the space, consistency, usage of space, the efficiency to how you use the space in good manner. Okay, flexibility, make sure your space more flexible, not rigid. That's the thing. And lastly, make sure your space reduce the cost in terms of maintenance, in terms of management, in terms of operation, because space gives more high cost if you did not use manage space, okay, more effectively and more efficiently. That's why if you not manage properly, it will incur your cost in the future. All right. Issues. Okay, what is the issues in space management? This is I've been list out from my document and also my experience. Okay, first of all, the main issue of space is lack of inventory space usage information record. The data, the information. Right now we have the technology, okay, like Akibas, like Seawork, like all those the software teams. It's good, but the question is, the tool is good, but the data, how the is it the people that take the data into the system, is they are competent to take the data collection? That's the question mark there. All right, that's why the system is good, but the human resource, the competency person that manages space must be capable to understand the space management, like space inventory, space code, building code. Okay, all those things you must understand first, right? Next, low occupancy rate. This is the major issues for the building owner. They have a lot of space, but in terms of occupancy is quite low. And what is the impact? Impact in terms of the expenses, the costing, and might be effect on their profit in the business oriented. Okay. And third is insufficient space, inefficient space utilization. Okay. Below gross are the important factor that contribute. Okay. And business growth are important factor that contribute space issue. See, what means by that? Insufficient space. Okay, means what? Means the space cannot be not enough for them to operate, or an efficient space. Inefficient, they have the space but they cannot use. Or that's why another one is business growth. They did not determine first what is their long-term goal in terms of business or business vision and mission for the company. That's why the mission and mission of the company, the goal of business must be concurrent and must be concurrent with the existing space that they have. That's the main issue. Okay, and next is align space with the change management. This is the critical part of space management, because some of the existing space is not accurate with the change management requirement. This is quite make difficult to the management. Not the management, the space manager to fulfill the change management that determined by the organization. And next is not able to optimize existing space according with the actual requirement of the design space. What means by that? Not able to optimize existing space according with the actual requirement of design space. That means the design space been designed, for example, the space design space capacity of the design space is 40%. I'm talking about in higher education, 40% for one class. The design is 40%, but the usage is not 40%. It's not 40 people. Only used by 10 people. That means it's not practical and economical for that particular purpose of the space. This means they are not optimized the space. Okay. Next is space are not function due to poor maintenance condition. That's why in my criteria of space audit assessment, they have a 5 criteria of space audit assessment indicators. First, they call space capacity, space occupancy, space frequency, space utilization, and space condition. This is 5 criteria we determine the space management performance to determine is it the university to achieve high optimization of their space. That's another thing we have to understand about it. Okay, and next is rigid in terms of space design layout. Rigid. What I mean by rigid? Most of the buildings, I'm saying is the old building have I would say is rigid design. They cannot be changed. They cannot be altered. They cannot be renovated. That means the structure cannot be changed. If you want to change the structure, you have to demolish the building. That's quite loose to the organization. That's why we need to to understand, to make sure the design after this is more flexible, to gain more beneficial for in terms of space management. All right. This is a space management process. Okay, this is the framework I will develop in my PhD. Okay, what is the base space management process in higher education? They have a three step. First, space planning, space operation, and space review. I'm focusing on space review. Okay, but however, to understand space management, you have to understand these three level of space management. Okay, in terms of space planning, operation, and space review. Okay, and the spot activity or space planning, but to determine the space requirements, space inventory, space benchmark, provision of space plan, capital planning in terms of space, new space, and submitting space approval. This is the stage of space planning. And next is space operation, means the execution of the space management and the space assignment, collect data, space data, minor work process, space allocation, space costing, and room booking. And lastly, this is my part, is a space review, is in terms of audit. Once we audit, we have to audit a lot of things like information, capacity, occupancy, frequency, utilization, condition, reporting, and documentation. This is the space management is all about. Okay. Okay. In terms of space audit, why we need to audit space? The important reason to audit the auditing process with the space facility in a higher education institution is for what? For minimizing space problem in fulfill management strategy to support the core business of the organization. That's why we need to make audit to understand, is it they have a problem or not? Space audit assessment can be applied for any institution that manage massive and large asset, for example, building infrastructure and land. Means what? Means space management is more economically for the massive asset or building. Okay, for example, infrastructure, land, or the larger asset, not for the small one. Okay. Right, basically space audit are more applying higher education institution, for example, public or private, due to involve enormous amount of assets such as academic buildings, student college, office, administration, sport, and recreation. For your information, university, what is the institution have the larger asset owned in is one of the organization. The university have the larger asset. What if want to call about UITM? The UiTM is the more biggest asset occupied, okay, in Malaysia or by in the world because we have a lot of campuses around in Malaysia state, right? And what is the space audit process can be divided? This is the process how we want to make a space audit. They have a 3-step. Our first one on the preliminary audit, fieldwork audit, and audit report. And lastly, we prepare the report. Okay. Next. Okay, now we talk about digital space management. Okay, because to suit this our theme of a webinar. All right. Okay, digital space management. Jeff Frank, Executive Director of Virgin Location Technology Team, stated that digital space management is next evolution in mapping technology, which create a centralized hub to help map, represent, track, and manage all object, asset, activity within physical space, all keep up to date in near real time. The platform leverage to IoT sensor function, artificial intelligence, 5G connection, edge and cloud computing, location technology, and digital twin technology. Means what? Means the digital space management is to make space management operation more effectively by using technology. Okay, and he explained more. The digital space management can able to discovery, manage, and orchestration of space. It can help digitize, connect the world in a new way, helping to enable smarter decision and better in the future. Okay, one of my problem in space audit is to collect data. Okay, because we have to get the manual of record, those things. But by using digital space management, all in when it's in digital, the data can be collected in the computerized methods. Okay, that is easy for us to analyze data and quite accurate compared with we using a manual or conventional way before this. And that's why every single high value object in space can be categorized, cataloged, centralized, contextualized, indexed, indexed in the digital space management so that it can be studied, discovered, organized, analyzed, and managed in a new way. This is why we need technology in digital in terms of space management. Okay, and what is the impact of digital space management? The impact is digital space management can be managed by human and machine to help better navigate the space. What is meant by navigate the space? That means we know the location of space, the occupancy of space, how frequent space can be used, what is the optimization level that space being rectified, and lastly, what is the condition in terms of maintenance. We can knowing at the real time. That is very good. Avoid unsafe situation. Avoid unsafe situation. That means we can know exactly what is the ongoing space activity on that particular area. Increase efficiency of workers. That means by using digital, we can increase our workers, our technician, our maintenance, our facilities workers more effectively by using this digital space management. And also automated businesses, okay, in terms of operation, all those operation in the facility management system, and allow machine and human work side by side. That means we are collaborate human and machine to get more effectively, more efficiently in terms of space management operation, okay, for that particular buildings. And it can be applied to all space, be or small, indoor and outdoor, including roadway, entire cities, right? And lastly, what is the challenges digital space management? Okay, the challenge of digital space management, the organization culture. For example, like is it similar to manage space in higher education with the hotel or with hospital? Definitely they have a different culture, isn't it? That's why we need to understand the nature of the operation of the organization. Like hospital, they have their own type of space. Like hotel, they have their own type of space. Like higher education, they have a massive type of space. That have been my experience before this. That's why the challenge is you have to know exactly what is the nature of the business of your client or the owner of the building. Okay, that's number one. Number two, lack of IT resources and management. This is lack of IT resources mean in terms of competency, because once we talk about ICT, information communication technology, okay, most of the organization, okay, they don't want to invest in terms of new technology. That means they want to maintain what they have before. This is the challenge that we have to rectify, to analyze, to study, and to educate to the owner of the building. Important of we have to invest in ICT or whatever about in the technology it's all about. Okay. Number three, lack of clarity or digital determination and budget. This is in terms of financial. Financial, that means this is why the stakeholder or the owner of the building or the company, okay, quite reluctant to give more budget or more financial on this investment on the ICT for the digital transformation, for space management or facility management or asset management, because they do not understand, they quite not understand the impact of the space management, asset management, space management to the organization. If we make more effectively, manageably, on good manner, it gives more impact to the organization. And number four is digital security. What I mean is cyber security. Okay, how safe, how secure your data is it? That's the question mark. Yes, we have the digital, all those things, secure, all those things, but how secure your system? That is sometimes the owner of the company, the stakeholder, quite give a question about that. That's why we have to give confidence to them. How secure your system is, how to secure your system to secure the information, the critical information of the company. Okay, and lastly, unclear transformation strategy. That means if we want to transform digital transformation in space management or in facility management, we must have strategy, the goal, okay, the goal, the mission, the strategy, the long-term strategy to make sure our asset, our property, our facility, or especially in space, our building space can be digitized more effectively and more accurately to give more impact, not only for the management of the asset, but also to the stakeholder or the owner of the company. And for that, I'm give return back to the moderator to continue the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Wan, for your insightful information. I like the way you address the journey, to bring us to digital now. And yes, how secure is secure? That is always be the question that been asked to me when I build or I created the concept of the why not we host it in the cloud or on cloud. Then they start asking how secure, even though you provide the security, how secure the secure,
Yeah.
So, okay, thank you for your insightful information. And thank you also for emphasizing about the space journey, the space management journey. And now we are in the era of the digitals. We talk about how can we transform the space management to digitals. And of course, we have here our second speaker, Joanne Mann, to talk about it. Over to you, madam. Please unmute your mic.
I will. And can you just tell me if you can see my screen, Shireen?
Yes.
I'll put it in presentation mode. Good evening, everyone, and thank you for Shireen for the introduction. I would also like to thank both CIBD and Microcorp for the opportunity to speak this evening. I feel very humbled to be in your company, Dr. Wan, with all your learnings and books that you have written. I totally agree with the challenges you raised around space and the change management journey that people must be ready for. Your insights on space were great and certainly gave us all something to think about. So just a little bit of background on myself. I work for a company called iOffice and Space IQ. So we've recently been through our own, I guess, digital transformation as we merge our two companies together. And I have had an experience of working in space. So one of my roles was the executive manager for a corporate real estate division in Australia. And my role is to meet the needs of the strategic business initiatives with regards to space and facilities. So responsible for the design and delivery of workplace solutions. And a couple of key initiatives I led was a workplace transformation program, transforming workplace from a traditional fixed setting to a flexible and agile space for 16,000 employees. So I very much have lived and breathed space and facilities management in my life. So space and facilities, I think when you talk about those two things, the two go hand in hand, but it's a real balancing act. Back in October 2020, I spoke at a webinar about the future of workplace. 1 year on, and we still do not have all the answers to what our physical space is going to look like, and who would have thought we'd be spending so much time working from home. One thing is for sure though, space management is something that we're all thinking about. And I just want to take you back to October 2020, and these were some of the key things a year ago that was happening across the globe. So people talking about, killing the 9-to-5 work days, people working remotely, expanded data collection, and shifting from designing for efficiency to designing for resilience. And I don't think in this time, in the last year, much has really changed from a COVID-19 and people trying to manage space. I think the biggest challenge that organizations that I work with are facing are how to get our people back to the office. What does the space even look like? And how on earth do we make those decisions? What technology do we need to implement to transform and manage this space? So when you look at the changing face of real estate, I think there's two areas that most of us that are on this session this evening are probably in. We're either looking at the return to work So looking at how real estate is evolving, do we come out of our lockdowns? Do we start planning for that return to work, or are we moving into that hybrid working? And I think companies are looking at what the future looks like. So on the right-hand side there, I think with more work from home flexibility, it means a change to the demand of space. There's a desire to shift current supply. There's a move to more collaboration space and less individual space. Occupants are shifting away from long-term supply commitments. And I remember when I was managing leases, some of our leases were 5, 10, 15, 20 years long. Now people want more flexibility with the change in the environments. And then layer that with more space options, including local and public co-working. I think there's also a change in the decision-making from an organisational point of view. So we're now seeing specialised teams who are managing budgets for all this space, and the HR and employee lens is more predominant. So software is a necessary enabler for establishing baseline and planning. It enables space supply adjustments, looking at your footprint, your design, and obviously your dynamic space planning. It also informs strategy via space demand, data collection, and insights. And there's more of a focus on employee requirements and enablement. So how do we use the Internet of Things or devices to monitor various building elements, analyze that data, and generate insights on usage patterns that can be used to optimize the building operations? As our expectations of the building capabilities grow, so do our expectations on facilities managers. So FM today has to consider the comfort and individualization of workplace for everybody in that building. FM is merging from maintenance and primary functional support to the provision of an experience that delights the user. By understanding the details of how space is used, facility professionals can reduce vacancy and ultimately achieve major reductions in real estate expenses. So you need accurate and accessible room and area information, which will be the foundations of your good space management. So the availability of information offered by these digital technologies can lead to the definition of your strategy, and investments in technology around space can offer huge advantages from an FM point of view. Reduced energy consumption, enhanced productivity, and also improved building efficiency. As a space is used differently in an organisation and we transform to a more digital age, then FM needs to keep up. Space practices are definitely not required to the same level in a fixed setting traditional environment. So people come in, they sit at the same desk every day, and from an FM point of view, it's cleaning and usually air conditioning that we need to focus on. Move that to a more flexible approach, and all of a sudden we need to think broader. If the space is more utilised, how on earth does the building cope? Elevators might suddenly have queues at them. Simple things like consumables, tea, coffee, sugar, water, all those things, and air conditioning will suffer because of peak use and high utilisation. So FM people need to think more holistically and use the data at hand. Look at the peak days, usage of the different areas, and how to keep people safe through social distancing while maintaining a good cleaning regime. All these things to be considered as we look at our practices around transforming space and the workplace. And I think FM, it's more than space. So the facility will give you a true ROI. And you think about the different technologies we have at hand. For instance, a building management system, a BMS, has the ability to collect data in real time, allowing facilities managers to take action as soon as a problem or opportunity is flagged. Sensors, whether they be temperature, humidity, air quality, water, motion sensors, proximity, all of these will allow you to trigger an action based on the data. And then we've got contact monitoring, very important to keep your people safe and social distanced. Incorporate safety protocols all into your work order procedure. With the digital transformation, what tools are we putting in the hands of our people? And I'm not just talking about the end user, but more on the side of the people that are managing the space. Things like building consoles to monitor the space, having work requests online and the efficient management of those. And then of course, everybody wants a mobile app to be able to use this out in the field, in the work area, and record these ongoing. So space management, it is tricky. It's evolving and it's changing every day. You need to maintain accurate data to mitigate and manage exposure. Space needs to work for the employee and ensure they are safe, or at least be maintained in such a way to instill confidence. How on earth do you make those decisions on space and the technology you should be using to inform the facility? Well, perhaps our next speaker can shed some light on this. So I'll finish then and I'll pass back to you, Shireen, and hopefully we'll hear from Lisa next.
Yeah, thank you, Joanne. Yeah, actually, it's right. To do space management is tricky. So that's why we talk about, or we choose this topic. The trickiest parts when you want to perform of implementing or integrating the facility with the peoples and with the processes. So everything is go back down to the space and the asset also registered to the space. So it's tricky and trickiest and a lot of way to do that, especially during this digital era. So we talk about data, of course in Malaysia, Joe, if you come to Malaysia, now we have a MySejahtera, we have a QR codes that been posted in anywhere, any places that we go, So it's been utilized, it's been used and utilized. I think over that 5 million, more than maybe 5 million, we take the picture of the QR codes, to inform them, I'm here.
So no more writing in a book.
No more, But if you are not doing it, you can get penalty. Yeah. So actually in the digital era, in this pandemic, this is one of the starting point of the huge data of where you are in that particular space being registered by law. So then you cannot fail to do that because you fail, you've been penalized. So it's like, it's something that's we do it, if actually it's not being taken care or be utilized for space management activity. Yeah, Doctor?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So thank you. Great to hear from you, Joe. And then, all right, now it's a time for Lisa to share the insight about how she handled space management, especially in the era of the digital transformation. Over to you, Lisa.
Okay, thank you so much. And like Joe said, I really would like to say how appreciative I am of being here and thank Dr. Wan as well for his and Joe. So I'm going to take a little bit of a different approach here. So, and just give you a little bit of background, and I'm going to take a bit of a different slant than the other two. So I am Lisa Copeland. I'm the director. I'm actually an organisational psychologist by trade. And I've worked internationally in the US and the UK and now Australia. My biggest project was a 2.2 million square feet office space that we did a fit out. We moved 10,000 people from suburban offices into a centralised area, and that was about 15 years ago. And that's really where I fell in love with workplace and got my passion around it. So before I jump into how we use space management data to help people understand their occupancy model and to optimize their area, I wanted to sort of give you guys some context on my presentation. So first of all, we are an Australian base. We're very niche in our company. So I love that Dr. Wan was talking about how to use utilization across multiple industries. Well, we're very narrow, we're very niche. We just operate in commercial real estate, and we just focus on workplace strategy and change. So we take a very different approach to most strategists because we take a very holistic approach to thinking about workplace. So in order to contextualize what I'm going to talk about, you have to understand a little bit about our process. So we really start with trying to figure out what is that ideal way that you want to work. And Dr. Wan did talk about driving a business strategy or connecting the workplace to a business strategy. So we're really trying to understand, what is your business strategy? What are you trying to achieve? What are your ratios that you're going to implement? And we're using all that evidence and data to figure out what is the optimal area. So once we know how you're working and what the area is, we can figure out and do a concept design to physically show the space that will support that model. We overlay the technology that you need to enable that model. So a lot of these workplace technologies that we're talking about that would feed into your space management system, we usually are recommending them at that point. And then we're designing the change management approach to help your people transition to the way that they behave today to the new way that they're going to work. And then finally, we do all of the financial viability and modeling to demonstrate to the business leaders that, hey, this new way of working that we're suggesting to you based on evidence and data is going to save you $140 million over the next 12 years, and it's only going to take you 2 years to pay back that capital outlay. Then we step into a very different role and we execute the change management component of the space. So our strategy is very data-driven and evidence-based. So the focus of my presentation today is how do we use that work point utilization data that's really key in space management to really inform the occupancy model and also to help optimize the right area. So that's what I'm going to focus on today. So before we jump into some of that technical detail, and I don't have a lot of it, but before we jump into the technical data, I really want to explain that workplace is more than just facilities. So the right workplace, so the space, the technology, and the new behaviours, if it's done the right way, it actually can be a tool to drive a business strategy or a catalyst to drive a cultural change in the right direction. And for example, how I want to talk about this is before COVID, a lot of organizations would come to us and say, hey, I'm trying to break down hierarchies within my business, or I'm trying to attract talent from that other organization, or I'm trying to break down the silos that exist within my organization because nobody's talking to each other. So if the right occupancy model can actually drive that particular strategy. So prior to COVID, a lot of organizations were using the workplace to drive a business strategy. Okay, but now at the moment, what they're coming to us for is just really two things. So they want a space that's flexible and responsive that can support a range of headcounts because they're really uncertain about what their growth profile looks like over a 10-year life of lease. And they're also uncertain about in 2 years how many people are going to come back to the office. So we're trying to create workplace that can be flexible and responsive and support a range of headcounts. And they're also trying to look at how do we reduce the cost of our real estate, because we can see, as Dr. Wan was saying, we're getting low occupancies. Okay, so I'm going to focus on optimizing the area to support the flexibility and also reducing the cost. I'm really going to narrow in on those two areas because that seems to be the thing that people are most interested in today. Okay, so what I've tried to do is give you an actual example from an actual client. So it's real-time data and evidence. Now, I just want to give you some context about this client because I know that people on this call, they may have no workplace data or they might have really advanced workplace data and have something like Space IQ or SaraView that we can pull information from. This particular organisation was on a traditional assigned desk model. So every person had a desk. There was lots of desks. So if you looked at the profile of the workplace, there was about 90% desk and about 10% meeting rooms. So they did not have diversity of places that individuals could sit and work and do tasks. So they wouldn't have a focus room with dual monitors. They wouldn't have a focus pod with dual monitors, they wouldn't have that diversity of those different work points, but they also didn't have a lot of those other spaces, so those alternative seats, so whether they're meeting room seats or booth seats or social seats. And Joe actually put up a really good diagram that spoke to pre-COVID organisations, workplace profiles, and post-organisations. So there wasn't a lot of places for people to go to work. Now, the other thing about this organisation is they had an incredible historical growth profile. So they were growing 16% of people year on year on year. And that wasn't a linear growth. It was because they were a project organisation. So their headcount went up and it down and up and down and up and down. So it was very, very difficult to manage space. They were constantly running out of space. They constantly had to shift people around, and they constantly were taking on new leases. So the biggest thing for them was about flexibility. Okay, so this is what was happening in their workplace. So they had 100% of people, okay, that all had assigned desks, and that peak work point utilization that we were able to get from workplace management technology or from sensors told us that those desks, even though they were assigned to individuals and every individual was expected to come into the office, were only ever being used at peak 64% of the time. Okay, and that's over a significant period of time. That's the worst possible case at any one point in time for 2 to 3 minutes over about a 3-month period. And the average that those work points were using was only about 46%. Okay, but if we look at the swipe card data, it would tell us that about 80% of people were coming in. Okay, so that was the profile of that organisation. So the question is how did we use that important space management utilisation data to help them understand and optimise the area? Okay, so I just want to kind of take some time. Oh, sorry, I want to go back. So one point. So the one point that you guys made is how do we use space management data to inform the right model? And so I want to talk before I jump on about that. So there's really 2 things that we're looking at here. So the first thing is when your work point utilization peak is less than 80%, there is an opportunity for you to take on a different way of working and look at some form of a sharing model. Okay, now the post-COVID numbers are much less than this. So we're looking now at down at a 20% average in Australia, and a 60 to 40% peak utilisation rate in Australia. The other thing that we're using this data for, or looking to use this data for, is what is the optimal area if we take on this sharing model that we need to have in terms of having some confidence about signing a long-term lease by using evidence and data to ensure that we're going to have enough space to support our growth profile over the life of the signing of the lease. Okay. So this is my technical example just to focus in on those utilisation rates. So if we take those utilisation rates from that space management technology, okay, and we use a area modelling technology or tool that we have, we can actually optimise a space of 1850 square metres that can support anywhere from 162 to 329 people without actually physically churning the space, okay? And on their current model, if they continued with their current model to support the same number of people, they would have to lease double the amount of space, so 3,290 square metres. So how does that work? So if I just show you here, so I have 1850 square metres, and you notice that I have 154 work points, okay? The reason that I have 154 work points and not 185 is I'm using a 12.4 square metre density. The reason that I'm using a 12.4 metre density is I have to ensure that 1, I have a diversity of work points, and 2, I have enough density in calculating my work points that I have enough space for all of those alternative seats and alternative settings. So meeting room seats, booth seats, social seats, all of those things that Joe highlighted that people were going to be returning to the office for. right? So I can basically have 1,850 square meters as an optimal area that can support between 162 people all the way down to 329 people with just making a behaviour change through packing up after a period of time, and the space can stay the same. So the space all of a sudden becomes very flexible and responsive. And the way that I do that is at the start of the lease, when I have 162 people, I actually need between 75 and 105 work points, but I'm giving those people 154 work points. So in this scenario, they could come into the office, they could sit and use a desk for a day and get up and use some of those alternative work points. So I could probably leave my stuff at that desk and get up and use a focus pod for a period of time or a meeting room for a period of time. As my headcount grows and continues to grow, so we'll use the worst case scenario in this case, at 10 years, I have 329 people, and for 329 people using that utilisation rate, I need between 151 and 211 work points. And granted, I'm providing 154, so I'm still providing enough work points. And the behaviour change that would occur in this case is, rather than coming in and using a desk for a day and leaving my stuff there and using other work points, I would come in and I would use a number of work points, and when I was finished using them, so after 4 hours, if I was going to be away for more than 4 hours, I might pack that space up and use another space. So we've created a flexible and responsive space that's created a 50% saving in real estate in square meterage. Okay, that is supporting a range of headcounts with very limited churn cost. Okay, so just to continue, so we talked about that financial modelling piece of our strategy. So just to kind of close this one out at this particular example, in this particular example, the financial modelling was completed, and this particular organisation saved $11.7 million over 10 years after they had spent over $7 million on fit out, technology uplift, including workplace management technologies, change management to support them, and rent. Okay, so there is this workplace technology, the workplace and the space management technology, having that data and having that evidence and being able to use that information can have a significant impact on your bottom line through giving you data and evidence to help you minimize the amount of space. So my key takeaway for everyone on the call is that a data-driven approach to workplace strategy can help post-COVID organisations reduce their footprint and embrace a new way of working, including remote working and what they're going to want to return to the office for, which provides a significant property savings, but also can give them a flexible and responsive space that can support a range of headcount when there's so much uncertainty about who can return to the office and how much that they need to grow. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope that's enough. Thank you for your time.
Wow, that's great, you know, because we have understanding about space management. We have the technology aspect about the space management by Joanne, and also we have how to apply it and how to get the result on the space management. It's like a journey that we have completed within 1 hour, you know, about the space management course. Very crash course. Okay, thank you, Lisa. I think it's very, very interesting point where many people in Malaysia actually are looking at that, Dr. Wan.
Yes,
but something that we are looking at, you know, otherwise we are spending, building up more buildings. In fact, we are actually can manage whatever that we have, we can make use it, and just by changing the human behavior, we can adopt to the new way of doing things. And of course, the technology is now available, and that's why our digital journey towards the battle of the transformation, I think we can meet in 2022. So because everybody now understand about how we can manage this and how the evolution and where is the technology and how can we apply the technology with the process by changing our behavior. Okay, It's 9 o'clock. We are now in the mode of the question and answer. I think we collected a quite number of questions from participants. Alicia, can we have a first question?
Yeah, so we have one question from Mahadi Mahat. Nice to have digital and data-driven space and facilities in FM industries. However, how is the acceptance of those practices from clients or building owner perspective?
Okay, who would like to answer this? I think all of you can answer it.
Open up to the other speaker.
All the speaker, because you all have different view, different opinion about this.
I can probably start. So what I would probably say is a lot of our clients, they have a range of, some of them have no data at all, and some of them have a lot of data. I think that's important to acknowledge. So for those people that have no data, I think getting some basic data either through a manual utilization study or sensors under the desk before they take the leap to a workplace management system is a really, really good start. Often through the process that we undertake, we uplift the workplace management technology, which includes making sure that they have some sort of space management technology, because when you go to a different way of working and you are starting to actively manage your space and you realize it's a tool to manage your business strategy, you want to invest and you want to get the evidence out of it. So I think starting with, if you've got nothing, starting with just a walk around and marking what's being used is really even just a good start to inform that you need to do a strategy to get to that technology uplift. That's probably from my perspective, but I'm sure Dr. Wan and Joe will have other perspectives.
I'll be brief, but I think from a building owner perspective, occupiers definitely, we're seeing they want to be able to manage their space and manage it well and look at the utilisation, because it is, as Dr. Wan said, very underutilised and therefore they're not getting the efficiencies. But building owners, I think in the past haven't done a lot, but I'm seeing a big shift from building owners now to say we want to be able to do this for our occupiers. So they want to be able to manage that space differently as well. And I think, you know, there's a definite shift that way.
Okay, Dr. Wan, how about you?
Okay, I just make some addition on the comment. Okay, on the owner perspective or client perspective, okay, because I've also experienced in my journey before I enter as a lecturer in UITM, I also assistant manager for property and facility management in one of the financial institutions in Malaysia. Okay, what is the critical part for the owner to accept, okay, in terms of suggestion? Basically, what they need is, what the question they are always asked, the main thing is, what is the impact for us by our investing in your proposal? That is the most crucial part, always be asked by the client to the provider or by the suppliers. What is the impact? The question is not the output, is the outcome. The outcome of your service. Let's say your I remember in 2003 my company be investing on this SS door system in my banking, my company bank. Okay, they are investing about almost 300,000 at that time, almost 17 years back. Quite expensive, 300,000 ringgit Malaysia for installation about 25th SS door in our tower in KL, in Kuala Lumpur. And why the owner accept that the suggestion, because that company can give solution, can give the what is the outcome from that particular service that being offered. Let's say the system called, if Ahmad Sharani knowing, they call elite system. Do you heard about that?
Yeah.
The elite system. I am the one the assessor that system. One of the assessor of that system. I want before we present to my board of directors, I'm the assessor to knowing what is the system Elite is also about in terms of access door, all those things. That means the critical part is the board directors or the top management, they want to know what is the outcome, what other benefit that the company can gain from your service. That means like access door, you just control your staff. You control your access your staff to give information in terms of attendance, the accessibility, the security. That means the company, the owner, they want to know what is the other outcome or impact for the company if they want to invest about $500,000 on that system. That is the critical part that if, most of the service provider want to invest. The company want to invest the system. For instance, like Lisa or Joanne said that yes, to convince the owner, we must have a lot of data, isn't it? Because the data can contribute the information. The information can develop a knowledge of the information. That's the things that most of the company want to know about it. What is the specialty? Not the specialty. What is the outcome? That means the more benefit that they want. That means once they invest, because the thing, yes, we have the good tools, the good system, AWS, Akibas, so all those things. A system is quite interesting. It's very helping for the management because the system be managed by the operation, not by the top management, isn't it? The top management, they decide to buy or not. But who's the user of the system? The operation, the management, the operation that manage the building. That's why the guy that manage the operation must convince the top management to invest. That's why I'm saying the digital challenge, the challenges of digital space management is to convince the top management to invest, to transform the manual system to digitization system. This is my comment. Thank you.
Yeah, I like the notion about data, information, knowledge. And the last part you missed, the wisdom. So we are
yeah, I know that. I just mentioned on the knowledge first.
Okay, yes, that's true. Sometimes people want to buy things, but they doesn't know what to buy. It's a simple thing. You go to digital mall now, people like Shopee, Lazada, you open it, even though you don't have intention to buy, you start buying. So that is the notion of the digital application. So you don't have things to buy, you open the digital malls, you will spend a lot of money. So if compared to last time when I and Joe go for window shopping, we are not buying, we just go for window shopping. But now if you spend on the window shopping on your Windows on PC, definitely you're going to buy. So that's the whole idea that digital transformation can make our life easier to make the board of directors buy the ideas. Because they can see it, Last time you want to show the space in the 2D form, in the piece of paper without color, plain paper, not interested. But now we do it in BIM, Revit, with a flashy color and modeling and flyby, go through everything. So we are actually creating their wisdom of what they are thinking. So this is the way of this digital modern era will help people to make fast decisions. And I believe, like Lisa mentioned about we want to make people to make decisions. If we help them to make decisions in fast mode, they will make decision on the spot. Okay, Lisa, you want to add something?
I just wanted to add that in most cases, the reduction of space well in advance will pay for any workplace technology. So I think I think if we take a holistic, we're not trying to sell the cost of the uplift of the technology. When you take it holistically and you look at the reduction in space and what you're going to pay over a life of lease, that is in the millions of dollars, whereas the technology uplift is a fraction of that, and it's going to give you that saving year on year on year. So I think it's about demonstrating that, not thinking this is a technology sell, this is a workplace. If we take a more holistic approach and say it's a workplace, and also you can't do a sharing ratio or a reduction in space without an uplift in technology. They go hand in hand, it won't work. Yeah. So I think if you look at it more from it's not about selling technology, it's actually the cost of the technology is insignificant based on the amount of space I can save because of that technology.
Yes, it's right. As simple as we change behavior, we appreciate the tools that we have, so that we can gain more benefits by having it. It's like we are spending time or we spending money on our phones. So if you calculate the benefit, if you just make a call, I mean, you can't get the benefit. But if you calculate the benefit that you can get when you make full use of your phone, especially the new Samsung, the new iPhones, you can't compare back with the money that you pay to buy it. So, okay. So we have another question, Alicia.
We have one from Mio Muhammad.
Okay.
When we talk about technological advances in space management and planning, may I know, in the event of a digital system malfunction or error in the database, how do you manage the issue, and what are your preparations to deal with such an issue?
That's a great question. Excel spreadsheets. No, if the system, most organizations that I work with, if the system fails, they typically have a contingency plan that they've already worked out. And it just, I guess, depends on the criticality of the task that they're wanting to do at that time. So most space programs that we sell to organizations, you can normally do without it, maybe 24 hours. But it just, I guess, depends on what you're doing at that particular place and time. Like if you were doing a major relocation of 10,000 people, as Lisa did, you would want your system running, but you can revert to pen and paper in most cases.
Yeah, I mean, that's where that if you don't have the tools, so we run it manual. We also have a lot of contingency that we put in place. So especially now, without realizing it, when you open your phones, they already inform you to perform the contingency. They ask you to subscribe the clouds. So without keying your data, they ask you to key in your username and password for the clouds. There is one of the contingency to safeguard your data. So without realizing, that is one of the contingencies. Okay, Alicia, have this question raised by Nozaini. Nozaini Mokhtar, having a review of the post-pandemic scenario space management, maximizing space utilization will need to be considered carefully. This is because of the need of having social distancing requirement, whereby the capacity of the building will be reduced by 50%. FM in this case is also responsible for supporting the corporate organization, managing the corporate office utilization. Like for example, there is a need to monitor and study high dense area which will be frequently utilized and ensure social distancing in comply by the occupant, tracking the close contacts. Hot desking now has become new workplace culture for the post-pandemic. In maximizing space utilization, would appreciate panel insight on this. So this is a long question.
I can probably go on this one. So because we are doing a lot of, obviously, so right now in Australia, we are delivering a lot of new workplaces in this post-COVID. We're calling it post-COVID because in Brisbane particularly, everyone has been invited back to the office and we're not. So the way that we undergo this, and there is a relationship with the space management technology. So we usually do anthropometric, point-to-point, head-to-head, shoulder-to-shoulder measurements so that we understand capacity. But what we're actually going to do is we're going to run multiple scenarios. So we actually run 5 scenarios over the existing space. So we'll run, if in a lockdown, how many essential workers can come in and where can they sit. In a pre-80%, so I'm talking Australia here, so we're talking about Australia's roadmap, in the pre-80% vaccination rate with a public directive, how would the space operate? In a pandemic, in an environment where we're all jabbed, how does the space operate? How does the space grow? And then how does the space operate in a new pandemic? So exactly the same space can operate differently. That's how we create flexible spaces. And what we do is when we model all those scenarios on how that would work, we then ask someone like Joe or the facilities manager to take that information and put scenarios into Space IQ or SaraView so that they can activate those when that scenario happens. Yep. So it might be that in the environment where there is, there's a very limited to only essential workers, then the SaraView app, so I'm just going to talk about SaraView, will only show the spaces that you can sit at that are available, and we might introduce booking of those spaces, to restrict the number of people coming in. So that's actually how a lot of organisations are doing it today. It's not about redesigning your space, it's about actually overlaying the operational scenarios, because your space can operate in a number of different ways. So once you understand that scenarios and you feed that into your space management system, it can be as simple as a click of the button to say, hey, we're in this scenario, this is what we have to do, and this is what's available to us, and these are the restrictions. So that's how we are doing it for a lot of our clients. Oh, if there's Dr. Wan or Joe, if you've got anything else to add.
No, that was perfect, Lisa.
Yeah, I think, Doctor, you want to add?
Just I want to add, okay, that is the scenario in the Australia, isn't it, Lisa?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
In Malaysia, I also been experienced because in Malaysia, because we have a lot of they call the restriction of MCO, isn't it, Sharin?
Yeah.
Right. like before this, they said about what now they changed to FASA, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, phase 4.
Yep. Phase,
okay.
Yep.
Phase. Okay, and means the government decided, okay, if the area been decide as a phase 1, that means they have a restriction in terms of occupancy of building. Phase 2, they have a restriction. That I believe it's the same with the Australia. Okay, however, because of this digital transformation, okay. And right now in Malaysia, we have what been Sharin said, that we use MySejahtera. That's mean the barcode to determine the location of the occupant in the building. And now in our system, we can knowing you been get as first dose, second dose of vaccine, or now we have a booster dose. Okay, after this, I don't know. Okay, then the facility manager or space manager can know what is the or maybe the public can know if they want to enter the building. They know what the status, what the occupant in the building. Is it the occupant have a full vaccination or have a booster? That is the thing that can help to the managers or the management to determine how they can manage in terms of this post-COVID pandemic in Malaysia. That is my opinion.
I think I saw that it's like a similar things, maybe, but maybe because we are not, our approach in Malaysia is not about space management. Our approach maybe on pandemic. So that's why we don't see it. But if you really look back, the scenario what Lisa already said and what Dr. mentioned, so if we really look carefully, we don't run that scenario under the call it space management scenario. So we have collected the data, but we don't call it the occupancy, we don't call it, but we call it that is a COVID-19 situation.
Yeah.
So I think if you run it back, it's like similar to what happening in Australia, because it's actually about the occupancy management, the
Yep.
utilization. You know? So, and we use that to help the people to manage the facility in order in the pandemic era. So it's only that we don't call it that space management.
Okay.
So,
COVID-19 is a great opportunity though, isn't it, to
Yeah.
change the minds of people and how they work and their behaviors, because everybody's trying to social distance. So it's a good opportunity.
yeah, actually,
Yes, that's true.
this situation also changed our behavior to become better human beings, to become better people who stay in the earth, so, and helping us to protect also the environment. You know?
Yeah.
Okay, I think we are running in extra 5 minutes from the plan. Anyway, I think we cover most of the questions, you know, and I think we need to wrap out. I think we have we covered everything. Thank you to all speakers. So before we end, anything that you want to add from Doctor? Anything? Last word?
Right.
Last word.
It's okay. My last perspective in terms of space management. There's a lot of opportunity in space management, especially once we talk about right now we talk about post-pandemic COVID-19, because a lot of the people are concerned in terms of their health, in terms of their secure of their health in the buildings, okay, not to enter the crowded place, okay, the distancing, all about is about space. All the thing that all the people say, or the government, or the agency, or the private sector say, most now we realize that space management become more important things that all the agencies, the organization, the company, the owner have to think about it, okay, to make sure our life are more safe, more secure in terms of health, in terms of might be in terms of social, in terms of economic, okay, because without this stimulate of the safety, secure safety in the building, that it might be impact in terms of economic sectors, economic growth of the country, because without the operation of the building, it might be effect in terms of our economy in our country. That's why first, to secure our growth economy, we must secure our safety building in terms of space. That is my conclusion. Thank you.
And Joe, any words from you?
Sure. Look, I think that space is a lever for change, and I think we're seeing that right across the world now. So people are finally working differently. They've had to work from home, where in many countries they never did that before. And so I think there's masses of opportunity to change the culture of an organisation. And I think Lisa and I should come to Malaysia and help you, Dr. Wang.
Yeah.
I think we should collaborate.
Yeah, I think thanks, Joe. Lisa, any words from you?
Yeah, it's just, I mean, Dr. Wan and Joe have said most of it. I did see a little question in there about people might not want to invest in space anymore because of work from home. I suppose the only thing I want to add around that is that all of our research suggests that there are activity, while people are pretty happy and productive working from home, there are really activities that are preferably to be done in the office. And we can talk about activities, so meetings and, collaboration, but actually it's the characteristics of those that are really important. So our findings have suggested that meetings, when we all know each other, is fine to be done on Teams. But if we're trying to form new relationships or deal with new stakeholders or new customers, it's better to be done in person. If we're trying to innovate and break the cycle and think about new processes and new ways of thinking, it's better to do that in person. If we're trying to affinitize lots of information into groups, it's better to do it in a big space where I can see a wall. If I'm trying to talk about contentious issues or really complicated information, information, it's actually better to be done face to face. So I still think there's a lot of value in investing in and we're seeing it right now. A lot of people are wanting to make the investment in the space and the workplace, but it's more about owning the commute or not owning the commute, but making the commute worthwhile. What is it that I want to come in? And for me, that makes space management more and more important, because no longer are the days where I can look at a plan and go, I know there's one person there on one desk. It's all gone, because what they're coming back for is not that. So it's going to become more and more and more important, and more different ways of gathering data to make sure we've got enough space and it's relevant and it's meeting building code, and all of those things are going to come into play, I think, a lot more. So that's my takeaway.
Thank you, Lisa.
Awesome.
We hope that you can spend your time in Malaysia when we open our borders.
Me too.
And the one, maybe you can invite for a few of the opportunity that we have here, and especially when we are in it's not an aging community. We are not only that moving towards to aging community, but we also have moving to aging buildings, aging space.
Yes.
Okay, before we end the webinar session, participant, please take out a few moments, fill in our feedback form to obtain the CCD and CPD point from CIDB. So this CCD and CPD point is free for you. Please feel free to fill the feedback form, and then you are going to get your CCD and CPD point. And this is very special activity together that we organized with CIDB. And the link for the feedback form will be posted in the chat box session. And great, and thank you for everyone. And before that, we also would like to inform you, we call it the last 5 minutes. We are going to have a third webinar session. Don't forget to join our next webinar session. This is very good topic also, on the 2nd November, 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Malaysian time. And the next webinar session, we talk about the asset management. We are going to touch about the asset management, the uncompromised ammunition. So this talk about the 2022 Battle of Digital Transformation in Efficiency Management. The third webinar series, asset management, the uncompromised ammunition. So you can join us for next events. Great, thank you everyone. Thank you for having us to your 8 to 9 p.m. times, and we will see you again next week. Thank you for the speaker, Dr. Wan Samsul, Joanne, and also Lisa. See you all in the near future in new events. Thank you.